Good morning, guys. For today's video, I'm going to talk about something that I have mentioned before in another video and that I've seen other expat bloggers talk about, and that is skin whitening in the Philippines. Skin whitening. Now, one of the things that I remember, this was probably my first few days in the Philippines, is watching television, and of course I couldn't understand most of what was being said, but watching television, and then there's a commercial for, I guess it's probably a lotion or a soap, and they're talking about the product's ability to make you one or two shades lighter. It was, some type of skin whitening product, or it would promise to give you a rosy white skin. That's a big phrase you'll hear in these products. And I was completely caught off guard by that because I really thought, who in the world wants to be whiter? You can see my cat back there. And I was just kind of going, I just didn't get it. I was floored because growing up here in the United States, I always remember the summertime. People are going to the lake, they are going to the beach, some of them are going to tanning beds, and then when you're all together, people would hold up their arm to see who's gotten the best tan, that kind of thing. And of course, for me, I didn't even bother to hold up my pasty forearm next to anybody else because I don't get tan. I freckle, I turn red, I freckle, I peel, then I have to get spots frozen off of me from the dermatologist, and that's about all I can do. So, uh, growing up and being so pale all my life, I just could not fathom that somebody would actually want to be whiter. It was just funny to me, and it's even apparent in people's, in dating and in the social scene. One thing that I mentioned in another video is the girls who are mestiza, that's a word that means a lighter skinned girl, tend to be more attractive to Filipinos than girls who are morena. Now, this is just a very general statement, okay? I'm not saying that it's true all the time, but I'm saying generally speaking, that's something that's true. If for those of you who are watching, maybe who are African American, it's kind of like, I'm sure you're familiar with the term, a red bone girl. That's kind of mestiza in the Philippines. It's somebody who is a little bit lighter. So that surprised me, and it took a while for me to get used to it. And the longer I was there, the more different types of products I learned about and I saw. And people took all of those, and they're still taking them. And why is that? Why is there this I guess you could say almost an obsession with white skin? Now, not everyone there is obsessed with it, but again, it's a huge industry, so that tells me that a lot of people are into it. And I remember one time when I was talking to some students, sometimes when students would talk to me about my appearance, I would joke around with them, and I would say, ginagamit ko ang likas papaya, which is I'm using the skin whitening soap. And at first they thought maybe I was serious, and of course I would say, no, I'm joking. I don't use that stuff. And then some of them would ask me, Kevin, do you think that stuff works? And I would kind of joke and say, well, when I look around the Philippines, I see a bunch of brown people, not a bunch of white people. So I don't think this stuff works as well as they claim it does. So, but okay, back to the reasons for this. Why does this? Why does this? Why do Filipinos like white skin so much? Some of the people have talked about some of the reasons, but I think I'm going to throw a few other factors in there that people may not be thinking about. The first one, of course, is the Spanish colonization. That is a big factor because remember, the Spaniards basically were in control of the Philippines for 400 years. And I think that has affected Filipino culture in several ways. And the skin whitening thing, I think, does have some connections to that. Because if you think about it, the people that basically had conquered them and owned the land and had all the rights were European, were Spaniards. They were European. And in some cases, these people who were Spanish, even some of the priests, would have children with the locals, and in many cases, those children who were half Caucasian or Anglo, however you want to call it, did have probably some privileges that someone that was, shall we say, pure Filipina or pure Filipino did not have. And again, this is similar to what if you think about what happened in the slave trade in the United States, when people would have children with slaves, and you had biracial children. Sometimes those biracial children were treated better than the children who were purely African. So the colonization did have an effect on the psyche of Filipinos. And one thing I can tell you that I've learned, this is something that I think I learned, I didn't realize until a few years ago. And that's that culture, when you think about it, culture goes way, way back. I mean, whoever we are, whoever you are, you're influenced by things that people did generations ago that you're not even aware of. So anyway, the Spanish colonization, that's one reason. But I think there are a couple of more that also play a role. And one is simply the influence of Western media in Asia. The influence of Western media in Asia. And what I mean by that is it's not just the Philippines that has people trying to make their appearance more Caucasian or Anglo. If you'll get online and do a little bit of research, you'll find that I believe it's maybe Korea or China or Japan, maybe even all three. There are people who will have surgery on their eyes to make them less Asian looking. And these are not all countries that have been colonized by European countries. And so part of what that tells me is that it has something to do with the influence of Western media. People watch movies and they see Caucasian actors and actresses, and for whatever reason they see that as something that they want to emulate. And so I do think that's a factor, and maybe that's a factor that's overlooked. Okay, I'm not discounting the Spanish colonization issue. I'm just saying maybe there's more than one factor into the whole skin whitening thing. So, yeah, Western media I think definitely has a big influence. And the third and final reason that I think there are so many skin whitening products in the Philippines is it's human nature. If you think about it, it's simply human nature to be discontent with who you are and what you have physically. If you really think about it, in many cases we're just not thankful for the bodies that God has given us. Yeah, I'm about 5'10" and about 200 pounds. Growing up, I wanted to be an NFL linebacker size guy, and of course now I'm not. That's not something I even think about anymore. I'm just happy to be healthy. But you get what I'm saying. All of us have a tendency, we want to be taller, or we want to be stronger, or we wish we were in better shape, or all of us have a natural tendency to be discontent with our physical features. And I think when you've grown up in a country and you see, this kind of goes back to media a little bit, but you see actors and actresses on TV, and you're around people that look a certain way, and then you encounter somebody that looks completely different, that can be attractive just because it's different, if you think about it. And that's one reason why I think a lot of guys arrive in the Philippines and they're so struck by the beauty of the women there is if you've grown up around, let's say, mostly Caucasian or Anglo people, and then you see these women with dark hair and dark eyes, and some people call it an exotic beauty, it's different. And so part of our human nature is is to be discontent, to want something that we don't have, whatever that is. And again, for me, that's not something unique to Filipino culture. In You look at all different cultures, people are always doing something to modify their appearance away from maybe what it would be naturally. So those are just a few things that you'll see if you go to the Philippines, or that's something you will see if you go to the Philippines. And in terms of being an expat, it's something you'll encounter. One thing, a lot of times when I talk to students and Filipinos, I used to tell them, I love your color. I would tell them, people in the United States sit out in the sun to be your color, so wear it proudly. That's what I used to say. Anyway, and that's what I would say too to any Filipinos that are watching right now. Brown is beautiful, so wear your skin proudly. Hope that helps. I hope that this video has given you a little bit of information, and you can feel free to comment below if you want to. Like I always say, please be respectful in your comments. Don't be a troll.